Black Magic Woman podcast acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this episode on. We also acknowledge traditional owners of the land where you, the listener or viewer, are tuning in from. We would like to pay our respects to our elders past and present and acknowledge that this always was Aboriginal land and always will be Aboriginal land.
Welcome to the Black Magic Woman podcast with Mundanara Bales.
Thank you so much, my sister, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me here on the beautiful lands of the Larrakia peoples, which is in the top end, Darwin, and the Northern Territory, in this beautiful island continent now known as Australia. Can you please introduce yourself to my listeners and also now to our viewers on YouTube? Tell us your name, tell us your mob, and a little bit about where you grew up.
Okay, well, I'm really pleased you asked to do this today. I'm so happy you're here. It's really good to have you.
Me too, I'm not here long enough.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, look, I'm Jade Ritchie. I'm from the Bunda clan of the Gooreng Gooreng nation. So I grew up there on my grandmother's country. Bundy's, quite a large regional town. It's just getting bigger and bigger.
Describe it to people that don't even know of Queensland or Australia.
Yeah, okay. So Bundy's about 4 hours north of Brizzy, and it was always known as the mother town of that region.
What's famous in Bundaberg?
Rum, unfortunately. So
Bundaberg rum. People all around the world. If you've been to Australia, you've probably tried Bundaberg rum. We're not promoting alcohol, by the way. We're talking about your country, which is Bundaberg.
Yeah. So it's
the ginger beer.
Yeah, Bundaberg ginger beer, yes. And a heap of other cool drinks that we grew up with. But yeah, that's all because of the sugar cane,
Okay.
And there's a lot of history behind that as well. So I grew up in an area of Bundy that, you had a lot of Aboriginal, Torres, Strait Islander and South Sea Islander people, and a lot of our mob worked on the cane fields, worked picking small crops, and it was a really big country town. So we've got the biggest mob there. So I was just
you're related to everyone.
Oh, yeah. So I'm an Apo.
Okay.
And biggest mob in town. So never lonely. Grew up with lots and lots of cousins, and we had both saltwater and freshwater. So big long days at the beach with everyone, and I remember we'd go out swimming in the beach, and the fellas, Pop and the uncles and everything would be pulling in sharks on hand line.
Wow.
Going past us while we were swimming. And I only really thought about that when I became an adult.
We were actually allowed to swim in Shark Festival. Yeah. Well, hey, they're part of us.
Yeah, well, see, we used to go to Kuna Beach, and I probably wouldn't put my kids in there now.
No.
But a lot of time in freshwater too. Had a lot of great creeks, and some of my fondest memories of fishing off Booyan Bridge. So anyone from that area has probably done that.
Reminiscent. If you're from Bundy, you're probably listening to the sister about these stories of growing up. So do you come from a big family, brothers and sisters? You're married, you got kids? Tell me more.
Yeah, so I've got two brothers. I'm the only girl, and I'm the middle child.
Wow.
So, you can draw your own conclusions there, a bit spoiled.
Just a little.
But yeah, big family on dad's side. So dad had 5 sisters, 2 brothers. And lots and lots of cousins. I grew up, we were sort of born with our own best friends. So there's me and there's 3 other girl cousins that were sort of born within a year or two of each other.
Your sisters.
And we just
all your
grew
cousins
up together.
They're especially first and second cousins, because we don't really have first and second cousins in Aboriginal society.
Yeah.
It's either your brother, your sister, your mother, your father. It's not step, it's not half, it's not part.
Exactly, yeah. So, we were all brought up the same sort of way. And then we were lucky enough to have some of our kids at the same time. So, again, Jack was born with his own little best friend because, my cousin had her son within 4 months of Jack being born. So, we've got that beautiful, big, extended family. And, I've lived on Larrakia country for 10 years. Absolutely love it. The only hard part about that is family being
so far away.
But we go home all the time, and they're the sort of relationships that you just pick up, and they're the same no matter how much time has passed.
Of course. And I heard that you lived down the road from me. I would love to have some mob down the road from me. And I know there is mob all over the sunny coast, but just in Mount Coolum, in that little neighbourhood. So you used to live in Mount Coolum, down at the boardwalk.
Yes,
which I have never seen in 2 years of living there.
Yeah.
It's a very kind of exclusive part of the neighbourhood, Jade.
Look, it is. We're pretty, felt like Uptown Murray's.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely living there. But for us, I wanted to get back to more of a lifestyle similar to Bundy.
Yeah.
And so for us, we wanted to either go to Cairns or Darwin next, and that's how we've landed here. But our time on the sunny coast was very beautiful.
Yeah.
We still got my husband's family. Some of them are there, and my mum's still there. So we're back frequently.
I know. I've seen you recently on your socials on Cubby Cubby Country. So what made you move to Darwin, if you don't mind me asking?
Combination.
Out of all the places right in the country,
Yeah.
this is beautiful.
So one of the considerations for me wherever I live is weather.
Yep. Okay. You
So
chose
a bit of a tropical girl. And look around us. You can't really beat this. Weather. I don't like traffic and those sort of things. I like a really cruisy lifestyle.
So you don't really enjoy being in Sydney or Melbourne? Is it a struggle?
I do for a maximum of 5 days.
Okay.
Yeah. I love the diversity of the job I have at the moment. I travel a lot, so I get the best of both worlds. But, when it comes to bringing up a family, I want that time in the outdoors and where you can unplug and just relax and not be commuting. So one of the big deciders for us to leave the coast was the commute. So my husband was traveling an hour and a half to work each way, and you just lose those hours of your life. And
So what was your husband doing, or is he still doing that today?
Yeah, so he's an aircraft engineer.
Yeah.
So he basically has to be near a big city. So the Bruce Highway, all the Queenslanders out there will know that you don't want to be spending an hour and a half a day
or double. If you leave, so for people that are in Brisbane or the sunny coast, or you're travelling there, if you're leaving in peak hour, then double the time to get anywhere.
Yeah. So
and if there's a car accident?
Yesterday I drove from the sunny coast to the Brisbane airport to fly back here. And the sign said, as soon as I left my mother's, it said 94 Ks.
Yeah.
I was like,
easy.
94, easy.
I got this.
2 hours and 40 minutes later, I arrived.
What did I just say?
Yeah, whereas Darwin, I'm at work in 7 minutes.
Okay. How good is that?
It's so good.
So you're at home with your husband, with your kids. You got a daughter and a son. Tell us about them.
Yeah, look, I've got a 13-year-old daughter, and she is a mini-me.
Yeah,
so,
I know, I've seen her. You look, spitting image.
So it's
mother all over. That's how we talk in
and
our
the
families.
attitude too,
is mother all over.
So that's challenging, but yeah, she's my best friend. She's an amazing child, teaching me a whole lot of things.
Of course,
because she's 13, she obviously knows
more than you.
Yeah,
and they forget that we were once 13 too.
Exactly. But yeah, look, we're extremely close. I had her in my mid-20s, which, sort of for my family, that was a little bit late.
Yeah, same. I was 27, considered old in our community to have a baby.
So my auntie, I've got a lot of great artists in my family, and my auntie did a show once, a collection, and it was called Left on the Shelf.
Left on the Shelf?
And it featured me and my female cousin who hadn't gotten married yet.
Stop it. Thanks, Art.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, well, it is kind of normal outside our community to kind of wait till, you've settled down and you've got your career and maybe found the right person, and then we plan. But no, blackfella's different.
Yeah.
It's opposite.
Yeah. So I bucked the system a little bit.
When you turn 16, that's the time. No, it's not. I'm just kidding. Do not have kids straight away. Live your life. Explore the world. Go and enjoy all of the freedom and no responsibilities. Yeah. If you're a young Aboriginal woman in particular, there is so much of the world. Go and see it.
So this is the interesting thing for me now is that, so I had the kids, Milani at 25, Jack at 27. I actually took a career break. So I left my government job, stayed home with the kids for about 5 years because in that time we moved up here. I wanted to get them settled in, and had that beautiful time with them. And then it's now, now that they're in their teenage years, I've taken a really big career leap, so I've left the public service. I'm 6 months into my new career.
Congratulations.
In the private sector.
Yeah, that's a big leap, like you said, big leap.
It's a huge leap. And I guess the structure of the work, the way I'm working, I am away a lot, but then when I'm home, I'm actually really present, and I'm doing a lot of work at my home office.
Yeah.
So I'm there when they get off the bus, and I'm trying to be more clever about how I work.
Yeah.
I'm definitely working harder than ever. but it's exciting.
Work-life balance, especially for women. And we know that especially after COVID, women returning back to the workforce, and women juggling the parenting, the cleaning, the housework. There's a lot of studies out there. So if you're really interested in having a look or unpacking that, I'm pretty sure it might have been the Diversity Council of Australia, the DCA, I might be wrong, that has done some research into the impacts of COVID on women in the workforce. Yeah. I spoke on a panel recently.
Yeah.
And hearing people talk about this, I didn't realise, and I'm not going to get into domestic violence, but there is a study about how domestic violence in Australia went through the roof during COVID, and our women, are trying to hold the family together.
So, a couple of things to that, because, a huge contributor to domestic violence is that isolation, and, the being locked down and locked away from family and other supports, and that incidental interaction you have, when you drop the kids off at school and what have you, that just wasn't there. So, our interesting story through COVID is my husband got stood down without pay from his job, and he went and sought work in Alice Springs, because that's where they parked all the planes while they weren't in service.
Just recently, my first time in Alice Springs, all of the planes.
Yeah, so he was running a project down there. So that meant for 16 months, I was working and doing everything with the kids, running the house. With him being 1,700 K's away.
So did he permanently move to Alice Springs?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he ran a really big project down there, and it wasn't FIFO as such, because he was needed down there. So we did everything up here. And of course, I went and broke my leg in that time, just to make it more challenging. But look, the kids really stood up. And one of the things I've learned when you're talking about balance, I'm not there yet. I haven't achieved it properly, but I outsource what I can.
Yep.
So, I've treated myself to a
Love
cleaner.
It. Yes.
And just trying to take some of the stress off the family, so that when we're off work, it's that good quality family time. So I've got that sort of, the logistics sorted, and I've got an incredible husband that really picks up a huge amount of slack.
Big shout out.
Big
shout out to the incredible husbands that are holding it down. Yeah. Thank you for letting us as women do what we want to do, that kind of fills our cup, how we can contribute.
And we've done it
and
for
still
years.
Raise a family.
Yeah. And I think I feel really...
We can do it all. Just give us the space.
Exactly.
Trust us.
That's
We've
right.
got this.
Yeah. And look, I think it's a really nice opportunity for dads to have that time without us running the show as well. I've seen the difference with my hubby and my kids, and the routines that they've got, and the little in-jokes and the things that they've got happening between the three of them, and that's really nice, because I've given them space to do that. So that's the other part of that.
Bonding, building relationships, especially with the young girl.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Probably daddy's girl.
Daddy's girl.
Yeah.
And, in terms of the sport and stuff, we're a bit of a sporty family. So the kids
what sports?
are mostly AFL, which I know
Northern Territory. Okay.
But the Murray side of the family aren't exactly happy about that.
Rugby league.
Jack's still playing a bit of rugby league in his off season, but AFL and basketball.
We love basketball.
Yeah, that's the big focus.
Uh-huh.
So, and shout out to people like Patty Mills, who are giving our kids, role models.
Man, I love the fact that you mentioned Patty Mills. You're too deadly, Bella Pat.
Yeah, because it's that whole thing about, what you see you can be.
Definitely.
And I think, growing up, basketball seemed, a million miles away for us. It was a real American thing. And now it's, it's on our home soil, and it's accessible by our kids.
Yeah.
And I think
you've got the Darwin Salties.
we do.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, try getting a ticket to that.
Okay.
It's that popular. It sells out.
So the Sunshine Coast Phoenix are in the NBL 1 North kind of comp, and Blackheart is their platinum sponsor.
Fantastic.
So on the back of their jersey, you'll see.
So when I come down, then I'll be going to basketball.
But I've been following Rip City a lot. So big shout out to Matt, the president over there at the University of Sunshine Coast, or USC Rip City. Love the culture, love what you've created over there. I now have been going to the Rip City games, and he's been giving us courtside tickets for cubby people and community without being a sponsor. So things have changed, my sister.
Yeah, look, they really have, haven't
We're
they?
sitting up on the courtside.
Yeah, so my son got that experience
Yeah.
last time there was a game here in Darwin, got the full courtside thing, and, it just meant the world to him. And that's the thing, even up here in Darwin, or especially in Darwin, we've got access to sport, art festivals. We do a great festival. But, just you think you've got to be in big cities to access that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we've just seen so much great music and beautiful art and the collections that come up here and visit. And, I was in Melbourne recently, and I went to the Ian Potter Centre. Got invited by a big law firm to go to this, special night and special access to the exhibition. And, we're talking about, Black people showing up in all spaces now. And so I walked in, it's just this sea of black suits. And I was like, I don't think I should be in this room. And knew nobody at all.
Completely out of your comfort zone.
Completely out of it. So I just sort of stood to the side at first. And then they opened up the exhibition and the curator started to speak. And he was a Corey fella, and so I was listening and I was starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. And then those doors opened to the gallery and we started walking through, and the first thing I saw was a Nunmara mat from Arnhem land, and straight away I felt at home. And then all the paintings, there were things there from Ramingining and from Tiwi. And so that's how I broke the ice. I was able to tell people, like this mat that you're looking at, this is from Ramingining, and I was there not long ago.
Oh my
and
goodness.
I just started to feel really comfortable and empowered, and that's the thing, being able to
even
see,
in that white space,
exactly,
right, with those people in
we're there, we're everywhere.
Love it.
Yeah, so I was actually wearing earrings just like this at the time, and they were saying, that's like the mat, and that's kind of where the conversation came from.
And I've got to say a big thank you for going to the bush traders. The bush traders here in Darwin, in the city. You've got to go and support, well, obviously Aboriginal businesses, but the Aboriginal people and artists and communities that have their stock now in these stores in the city. Sharon from Groote Island, there's about 6 or 7 pairs that I've now got. I can't wait to actually go and visit these beautiful places. So tell me,
this is absolutely gorgeous.
Living in Darwin, where have you been? What have you seen?
Well,
and what's been, I can't say the best community, but
no, I wouldn't dare say that.
Share some of those little experiences.
Look, I've probably seen the best sunset in my entire life at Maningrida.
Yep.
It was just like you're looking out at the beach, and then all of a sudden it's just like a lava lamp, and it just melts into the ocean, and then it's completely dark, and you've got to try and find your way back to your accommodation. Look, Groote Island is amazing, and they're doing a really great job of their tourism piece there. The Eco Lodge over there, I recommend going and checking that out. It's such an interesting place. The Anandiliakwa people are hugely inviting and so happy to share. And I guess that's been the standout for me, as a Murray coming across. I stepped really lightly and quietly at first, and after 10 years going to all these great places throughout Arnhem Land, and also through a bit of time through Central Australia, I'm just always blown away by the sharing. It's and in fact, when I was over at Yirrkala, someone I was doing work with told me about how our songlines meet. So 2 Gooreng Gooreng sisters made a massive journey all the way over to Arnhem, and he showed me the escarpment where they stopped. And that's their escarpment.
So you've got a
now.
connection.
So
your mob.
in their songlines, in one of the songs he sings, he talks about the Gooreng
2
Gooreng sisters.
Oh my
now
goodness.
that
blew you away, right?
Yeah,
I've got goosebumps all over my body.
But I guess, that's the whole thing, that certain places you go to, you feel that connection and you feel like you're welcome there. And, you just sort of think about the ancestors and how they moved and who they connected with. There was a lot of movement, around that time. And for us to think about that journey on foot from, over Bundaberg Way right over to Arnhem Land, it's not something we'd do,
No,
right?
no, it would have taken a couple of years.
Oh, absolutely.
And probably through some of the harshest climate from people that are not used to this climate, from desert to the tropics.
Well, that's the thing. You drive out, a couple of hours out of Darwin. Well, we went to Gooreng not long ago for the Wave Hill Walk-Off commemoration. That was amazing.
I was meant to be there and I pulled out at the last minute.
It was fantastic. But, that just driving out there, you see so much different countryside.
About 9 hours out of Darwin.
Yeah.
It's really important that you just mentioned that, because that festival, the Freedom Festival, is actually not as kind of widely known, but the Gooreng mob, the Wave Hill Walk-Off, was a very important part of our history in this country, where the biggest protest over wages happened and it affected the whole of the Northern Territory.
Yeah, and it kicked off land rights.
It kicked off land rights.
Which then had an effect all over the nation.
Yeah.
A couple of things that I learned.
Come to the festival, put it in your diary, look it up. You need to come to it, because if we don't have people that come and support it, then it's not going to run into the future. And I definitely now want to come. Yeah,
and it's one of those festivals that it's still small enough that you can actually sit down and you can yarn. Sit with Gooreng people and hear,
the Gooreng people.
Grandchildren and hear the stories, and we went for the walk and we went down to the creek, and so for me, I've heard the story over and over and read the books, and then I got to be there and walk it.
In the same footsteps of them old people.
And to understand, that the link with the unions as well, there was a huge amount of support with the unions, and we're seeing that again now with the Uluru Statement. I just got back from speaking at the Mining and Energy Union Conference yesterday, and one by one, every union has stood behind the campaign and really committed to it. So, that's a huge piece of work at the moment, trying to get everyone across why the Uluru Statement is so important and why we need a First Nations voice enshrined in the Constitution. That was really, that resonated when we were at Gooreng. Thomas Mayer did the Lingari oration there and really...
There on that country.
On country. It doesn't get any more special than that.
And I missed it.
And then that got followed up by Paul Kelly coming and singing the very
Big
famous
Things,
song.
Little Things Grow, which is all about Vincent Lingari and the Gooreng people.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah, I'm sorry you missed this. It was amazing.
I
but
couldn't
August
see
next
myself
year,
driving 9 hours after my surgery. That's why.
I'm glad you made that sensible choice on that occasion.
But I missed it anyhow.
Next August, come out with
I'll be there. We're putting it in.
Yeah, awesome.
So tell me, you just mentioned yesterday that you was, talking to union reps. How did you get involved with this Uluru Statement from the Heart of this campaign? How did you get involved?
Look, the first time I really I got informed about it, I was actually driving out to Uluru for the closure of the walk. And I went into my favourite bookshop, Red Kangaroo in Alice Springs, best bookshop. Went in there and I saw Thomas's book, Finding the Heart of the Nation. And so there was the adult version and kids version. And so I bought it up, versions for the kids.
Yeah, we very rarely see black books in normal bookstores. So when you walk into a bookstore and you see...
So this is why I love Red Kangaroo, because you walk in and it's just, Aboriginal authors everywhere. And isn't it a great time for Aboriginal authors?
Of course.
There's just so much to choose from. So when I grabbed the book and thought, this would be pretty cool to read while I'm out at Uluru. And that's where I really started to get a thirst for knowledge, to understand what's sat behind the campaign. And then, as it happens in Darwin, I ran into Thomas. So he basically talked me through. He lives here and talked me through the whole campaign and also what the union movement was doing to support the campaign. So the more I found out, the more I had to be part of this. Yeah. This is I have to be on the right side of history, and the time is now to make these changes. I've got children and I don't want to see them go through what we all went through. I personally have been affected by every failed paternalistic policy, and I'm just sick of seeing it. And 20 years in the public service, I want to make sure that government's in a position to make really informed investment decisions. Our mob need it now. And we've got this great opportunity right now with the current government just to get it done. So our job is to now get everyone to understand all about the campaign, and the easiest way they can do that is going to the From the Heart website and find out about how you can get involved in the campaign, and then just have the yarns with family and friends. It's a really simple concept. First Nations people need a voice to Parliament, and it has to be enshrined in the Constitution. We've learnt lessons before when we've established representative bodies, and hostile governments have just come in over and over and silenced us. So the way forward is enshrining it.
Yeah, do you think being enshrined in the Constitution, the voice to Parliament, will create the real change that's needed?
Yeah, look, absolutely. There's a wider strategy here, but enshrining the voice in the Constitution is a really big part of seeing that policy and structural reform. Absolutely, grassroots movements and, on the ground campaigns and changes at a place-based level are vital. But until we can influence the people who are making decisions, until we can be recognised as part of this national identity, we're always going to hit a barrier.
Yeah.
So
and we're always going to be, not jumping up and down, but the frustration just seems to, for me, people sometimes think when I'm delivering training at Black Card that I'm angry. And I have to remind people that I'm frustrated. I'm not angry. I'm frustrated because, like you, I don't want my children to continue this fight out on the streets, the protesting, the, constant struggle for land rights, recognition, self-determination. All of that is what my mum and dad, I was there at those protests.
And thank God they did it. I truly am grateful that they did it. And, and I've done my fair share of rallies and marches and everything. But what happens afterwards, it's really hard to keep momentum and keep the wider community engaged about, things that they see as Aboriginal issues. And now we know that these things, these tragedies, atrocities that we experience, they're not Aboriginal issues. This is a national issue, and this is why it needs a solution at that level. But I've heard Marion Scrimgeour say it so many times, you can walk and chew gum. So we can do this piece. We can do this massive structural reform piece and go to referendum, and we have to do that. And we can also do things at a local and regional
at the same time.
At the same time. We're that deadly. We can do that.
And it's such a good way to wrap up our yarn. I've got to jump on a plane. And also I've just, in terms of trying to get people to want more. So we're not going to give too much away, but there are other people that you can engage with, like Professor Megan Davis, an Indigenous constitutional reform lawyer who had 3 episodes on the Black Magic Woman podcast because the yarn was so good. Thomas Smear, we had Dean Parkins recently, and now we've got you, Deadly Sister, to add to that conversation, but to give people extra resources, extra kind of tools. If they can go to the website. I know that there's the books by Thomas Smear as well. Is there anything else that you want to share with people before we wrap up this yarn?
Yeah, look, I think so. At the moment, Thomas is just re-releasing Finding the Heart, and it's got a Q&A section, right? Because I think sometimes people want to share the message, but they get a bit frightened about, well, what if I say the wrong thing, or do I know enough to share? Now, that's a really, really useful tool.
For anybody.
So that you can start to get your ideas together on how to explain the campaign. But one thing I'd say is for me, it resonated when I thought about why First Nations people need a voice, why I want to be heard. I had to look at my own personal story, and I looked at what I wanted changed in my life. I don't want to see more of my brothers getting locked up. I've lost an auntie to DV. I've pretty much, like as I said before, every failed paternalistic policy has affected us. And I want that to change. So when I talk about why we need a voice, I talk about my own personal story. So for you guys out there who are having these conversations at work or on the train with your neighbours, don't be afraid. You don't have to have a polished speech on this. Just talk about yourselves and why it's important to you to have a First Nations voice to Parliament enshrined in the Constitution.
Wow. And you will hear more and more of it. There is a campaign. There are people out on the ground. Jade's travelling around the country and still trying to raise her family. And, yeah, I would say that there is a lot of people that are still unsure, and that just means that we just need more resources, more education, jumping on a podcast, having a yarn. Will help more and more people start to, either build the confidence to have conversations, or for people just to take interest in such an important event, issue. It's coming up, the referendum.
Yeah.
So we need to mobilise. People need to have these conversations. And if you're still sitting on the fence, which I am, to be honest with you, I'm sitting on the fence. I'm kind of don't know which way to go. Government in the past, haven't done what they said they'd do. So a lot of us as First Nations peoples have a right to be a little bit suspicious or to be sceptical. But you know what? There's some really good people at the moment that are driving the campaign. And like you said, it's a grassroots campaign. It's not government driven. It started from a grassroots campaign.
And I understand this mistrust thing.
Yeah.
This is why we have to enshrine the voice so that we can't be silenced, because you're absolutely right. There's been no accountability for ignorance in the past. We've got to build that accountability in. And this is why I'm really sure that this is the way to do it.
Love it. And building relationships is integral to all of that, to make this nation a better nation, but more importantly, for this nation to actually accept the true history of this country and to finally acknowledge that we were here before the first fleet. That's what needs to happen on that kind of national level, is acknowledging that we are the first peoples of this land. So I'm just going to say thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
For just turning up, dropping everything for me to jump on this podcast and just share a little bit of our lives with each other. So thank you so much. And I'm, big fan. Love what you're doing, and just love the fact that there's another woman trying to focus on family and career, trying to balance it.
Yeah, look, there's a heap of us.
We've got so much in common with each other that I didn't know about until this yarn.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to do this, because there are so many of us out there trying to do the same thing, and we need to do it together.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're welcome. So enjoy this beautiful place, Larrakia country. Come and see it, come experience it. Get up to Darwin, visit the Northern Territory, and no, I'm not getting paid to promote the Northern Territory.
Do it in the wet season, because the waterfalls are better.
Do your research. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And bye for now. If you'd like any more info on today's guest, please visit our show notes in the episode description. A big shout out to all you Deadly Mob and allies who continue to listen, watch and support our podcast. Your feedback means the world. You can rate and review the podcast on Apple and Spotify, or even head to our socials and YouTube channel and drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. The Black Magic Woman podcast is produced by Clint Curtis.